Well, I'm going to show another example of the Wickerson way how to script. Basically, just looking at my other screen for a second. Yeah, the 70th script here. I'm going pretty hard and fast and just spontaneous. I had no idea what I was going to make, but I just watched a video by Ohm, which was awesome for using network surfaces. And I said, I want to get my head around network surfaces. I've had trouble with the numbers, making it work. So I ended up generating this little crazy thing, and I want to show you how it's made. Pretty fast. I have written the script first, so I'll just take it out. We'll put it over in shaded. You can see what it actually is. And there it is in all its glory. What is that? Let's take a look what I did. I basically went in, started once again with points. And those points are generated very simply, extremely simply. In fact, I only put the steps of the range through 2 because it's the only way this actually works, or at least works enough that I'm happy with it. In making a very shallow thing, I threw it through sine, I threw it through another sine. So I did sine squared in 2 different ways. I thought that would be fun. I'll put my bifocals on so you can see what's going on. A sine out of the maths, and then also a graph mapper set the sign. You could do different things. What I did with the point stem was I rotated them this way. That's it. And I took a move tool and moved certain ones over in the Y and certain ones over in the X. So by actually looking at those, they're actually 2 different sets of lines. And what do they end up making? You flip the data on them and you interpolate them this way or that way. Now, you didn't really have to flip them, but I was trying to deal with larger and larger numbers. But then I just kind of gave up on it. I jittered them through a loft this way and a loft this way. And there, I've got 3 lines there and 3 lines there ready for my network surfaces. And there's my saddle. And that saddle is completely and utterly, awesomely manageable and changeable. Now, there's many other ways to do this, but I hadn't been using network surfaces, and I wanted to figure it out. So 2 lines this way and 2 lines or 3 lines this way seemed to make it work. That's done, nice and simple. I use the good old divide 2 domain with the ISO trim, and I've been talking to someone online. They have trouble with thinking about domains, but once you see the domain 2, it's predictable that you're going to see the ISO trim come out afterwards. And I took a centroid of that to find its area of each and every one on that panel. So all of those little tiny centers are there. And I move those up, but I move them up in relation to an extrusion of that original form, which I put through by finding the extrusion, finding the centroid of the volume. And then that vector was generated because I could go from all the points that had been in the isotrim over to the centroid. And so that builds a different vector in each direction. And then my geometry is there. It was my geometry at the center. And then that builds a beautiful extrude to point tool. So what exactly am I extruding the point? Well, I go back to here. I go back to my surface that I want to actually look at, choose that surface. I do another isotrim on it, the top point of the surface, and I end up with these squares. And you can see them just here. I do the same script again. I extrude to the center point in the other direction, run the script through, and I do those points are jazzed off in this direction. The other points are jazzed off in that direction. You could be happy with just that as an object. I mean, just these two themselves as 2 interfacing, awesome, killer Wickerson Studio spontaneous scripts. What a wonderful thing to play with. And if I wasn't happy with those, I could change the Z. I could move them. I could change the orientation of where I was looking to extrude those. They don't have to be the same. I can give them an old Mario Brothers kind of flash, and I could change the sides. I don't have to leave it to change 5. I could put them on the sides of those squares. But I like this reaction. I really like the idea of being between these 2 solids and thinking of extruding and making those as a bunch of different forms. So I'm going to go over into render. And there you go. You've got something kind of fun you can throw in the turntable. And how else can I have effect on those? I'll come back in here and just change the UV count into what you're doing. And I didn't mean to go up. I meant to go down. So you can have this kind of Pokemon kind of hairdo or whatever that video game is. Anyhow, very nice little understanding of geometries and maths. This script will be online. Keep an eye out for number 70. I think it's fantastic. And once again, I've got some pretty cool parametric control on that subtle in here. Very subtle because I'm only dealing with a very shallow curve. And I can also amplify it and unamplify it. The main thing you could do here, I guess, would be double click and change your range and crank it up to like 3. Or let's just go to, let's go to 3 and see what happens. Take it off so we can see the whole thing. There you go. You got a little more Shazam on the top and the bottom, but you didn't really even notice it. But it allows you to amplify things a little more. Not too much. And render kind of sucks when you dip below half, so I usually end up leaving it shaded. There we go. Or actually, I enjoy the artistic mode of looking at things. I don't know why. I like the faded, staggery, papery background. Anyhow, we go in here. We change the domain end. and we've got the same ability to manipulate and change that form. It's not really dancing from saddle and off the saddle, but if you start playing with that one data here in seeding these things differently, you can seed the top or you can seed the bottom differently. So let's just seed the bottom and see what happens. Yes. So another awesome animation. We can throw it into a render. I actually like seeing these like this. Let's just throw it into a little strange. Actually, I shouldn't be getting ahead of myself. Let's grab that one and take off everything else. And let's take that and throw that seed through an animation tool and see what kind of funk we get. We'll animate, go to 20 frames and hit go. And there you go. You've got the same type of thing that's happening. It's taking a little slow to start, but there you go. You got the little wobbled saddle cow pig. It's like you're riding a bucking bronco. And you have 6 minutes of a great script. This is the speed at which I'm doing now. I have no vision as to what I want to do. I watch a video, get kind of inspired, and then I go into it and I try and use a new node with all the skills that I already have to control data. And I think it's an understanding of points followed by vectors, then planes and surfaces, and without having to depend on too many of the nodes that are up here in the surfaces and transformations and things like that. You can make a pretty cool, like I said, 3 dozen to 4 dozen nodes in a script is a pretty decent thing to start with. And I think I've ended up importing, bringing some different things in. So I'll just hit add to group, and we'll save that file because why not? Save data and throw it through, and we've got some fun there of what was happening. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. I do love these scripts. I've got them speeding around like crazy because that makes me happy. Nothing too fancy, but when you can understand this way, you can start building and modeling this way. And this is a big difference between how I used to make things. Zoom extends all won't work until I have it off turntable, but you can also see the other aspects of what you have. I'm always interested in Rhino viewing what I've made by kind of a rendered view of it, usually baked. I like to see it technically what I've ended up doing. I like the pen drawing of it all the time, and I also like the artistic. So I usually leave things like that. Actually, that's Arctic, and I want artistic. So that gives me something to look at in the end and play with. Not too fancy. It does do an extrude the point tool, which is kind of a default in a little script that does what I could mainly figure out myself. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching.